What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with some Raid Shadow Legends commentary. In the background, we're just going to be on the free-to-play account today, running some Ice Golem, getting some points for Clan v Clan, and working on this Fragment Fusion. But what I kind of wanted to talk about today is Plarium's response to why they took the third-party Mercy System counter out of the game, or access to it out of the game, and some of the reaction from the community, specifically the content creator community. I'm starting to see some interesting parallels to when I used to do content for Destiny, and I want to touch on that a little bit. So I'm going to cover a little bit in this video today. I actually wanted to make this a little earlier, but I kind of had to sit down for a while and just kind of compose my thoughts and figure out how I wanted to talk about this. So hopefully I can get all this in a condensed amount of time and not ramble forever. The first thing I did want to talk about, though, is we also had the AMA today on Reddit with Plarium, which went about as well as you could have expected. It was a pretty good marshmallow roast, and I thought it was kind of funny. They continue to do that stuff when they always give the same answers, which are basically non-answers. So a lot of people are sort of in uproar today. The community's not in a great spot right now, I don't think, which to me is okay. I'm totally fine with that. I think it's great when developers are taken to task. I have a very different attitude on that than a lot of my contemporaries. So I'll get into that a little bit later. If any of you guys followed me back when I did Destiny content, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I want to first start by giving you guys a little bit of background information on Plarium and their parent company, in case you guys aren't aware of how they're actually run. Plarium is actually owned by a casino company, Aristocrat Leisure, I believe is the name. I'll put the information up on the screen, actually. I've actually been watching their stock, which is traded on the Australian exchange, basically since they acquired Plarium. I wish I had invested in them because they're up almost 40% in 8 months since they started pushing Raid quite a bit. So at least then I could be making some money off of the game I spend money on. They're a very large company. They make casino products for the most part, and they basically bought Plarium to get an entry into the mobile game sector. Basically, a lot of companies are trying to do that now because it is a very lucrative space. And it's no surprise that a lot of the systems we see in Raid are almost like being in the high roller section of the casino, with how much you have to spend on packs. How many of the systems are based on RNG. Basically every single system in this game is based on RNG, from the gear drops to actually leveling up the gear. I could go on and on that, but I won't. But this is not a company that needs your pity. It's not a company that needs you to white knight for them. They make plenty of money. They're making money hand over fist on Raid Shadow Legends. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I'm starting to see the same parallels that I saw with Bungie and Activision. Raid is a much younger game than Destiny was back then, but we're starting to see that same kind of relationship where you have a company in control at the top who basically all they care about is profit. They don't really care about player retention, which is pretty obvious from the analytics video they released a while back. It's kind of staggering the number of players they actually don't retain in this game. The statistic on, I think, the amount of players who'd actually been over level 60 was absolutely terrible. The fact that Shaman is like the most used champion is also pretty hilarious, and shows that people aren't playing much beyond the first couple of weeks of the game. But it's basically, you have a developer with Plarium who, there may be some people there who really do want to do cool stuff for the game, and there is some cool stuff that does come out for the game. Like, I thought Doom Tower was an excellent release when it first came out. It's since gotten kind of tedious, and they made some poor changes to it along the way. But those people are probably overruled most of the time by the higher ups, by the executives who are in charge of the pocketbook, who all they really care about is driving up the stock price for Aristocrat. Now, I do feel kind of bad for the community managers in this game, because they are often put out in front of the community and they're not allowed to say anything. And that's pretty common for a lot of these games. We saw this a lot with Bungie and Destiny. They would send out Deej all the time and tell him to basically just, say whatever you could say to soothe over the community, and the community just sees right through it. But at the same time, there's really nothing that the community managers can tell you. So that's why I think it's funny they continue to do these question and answer sessions when they can't actually give you answers on anything. But that's kind of a little bit of a background on Plarium and how they operate, why they operate the way they do. If you guys aren't aware, one of the easiest ways to find out information on an actual company that makes games is, especially if they're publicly traded, figure out who their parent company is that owns them. Look up their stock ticker, and you can find out all the news that's going on. Like, that's actually one of the ways a lot of the news comes out about Overwatch. Blizzard is by following Activision Blizzard. You can see their investor calls. You can actually listen into their investor calls, and you can kind of get the idea of what's going on behind the scenes. That's how a lot of information came out about Bungie when Activision would do their investor calls, and that's one of the easiest ways to find out how a publisher or a parent company views their product, whether they're trying to make a cool product that everybody wants to play and have a good time in, or if they just care about making money from that product. And personally, having worked in corporate environment before, I used to work for a publicly traded real estate company, and a lot of the times it boils down to just how much money can we make for our shareholders. And the consumer, the customer at the end of the day kind of gets the crappy experience because of that. That's enough about that. I just kind of wanted to lay that groundwork so you guys kind of get an idea. But let's talk about the response that Plarium came out with, basically for why they removed the third-party Mercy counter. I'll put it up on the screen, which we woke up to this in content creator chat this morning. And at first people were kind of in an uproar, but then later they settled down because people like to toe the line, unfortunately, at times. And so basically they said at the end of the day, it's a security risk. And the third-party application has access to data and possibly your account information. And that's the reason they got rid of it. I think this is complete and total BS. I actually said this in content creator chat as well. I said this doesn't smell right. And the reason I said this is because Plarium has looked the other way on several other third-party applications that are used within this game. They also look the other way anytime content creators want to do shard polls for their viewers on stream or account takeovers on stream or on YouTube. And it's funny to me because when you become part of the content program, there's actually a line in there that basically says you will not obtain other people's account information. And it's in the terms of service that you will not access someone else's account in these games. In fact, it's one of the things that really threw me off about Raid when I first started playing it and watching the community videos is if you do this in any other mobile game or gacha game like Marvel Strike Force or Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, which are the two most I have the experience with, you will be banned like instantly if they find out you went into somebody's account. It actually has happened to major content creators in Star Wars Galaxy Heroes where they were in someone else's account and the developer found out and they were banned. No questions asked. No appeal, nothing. They lost the account. Plarium obviously doesn't care about that, which I find interesting, and that's why I also found it interesting that they had this stance on this third-party application being a security risk, because quite honestly, account data sharing, let's say you give someone your account info to log in to do an account takeover. Most of the time you're doing that exchange through Discord or another medium online, which could possibly be hacked. And even though, let's say you change your password afterwards, if someone gets access to that information and they know even the smallest bit about hacking and all that stuff that goes along with it, they can very easily brute force your information all over the internet and find out if that name, that email address, that password will work anywhere else, and they'll be able to get in. Now, I'm not an IT specialist, but I know enough about computers, and I also have several friends that are in IT security, data security, and I work for a company that specializes in very high stakes real estate transactions, multiple millions of dollars, just to kind of give you an idea. And we've had meetings with the FBI on wire transfer theft. We've had meetings with many IT security companies. You would be amazed at how easy it is for someone to get your information just with an email address. They don't need much at all to actually get a lot of your information. And so just imagine, some of these content creators that do this stuff, they're going to have a chat list probably in their Discord of all the times that someone's given them an email address, the password to the Plarium account. And like I said, yeah, you may change that password, but that doesn't mean you might be using it somewhere else that you didn't think about, and they can very easily use that information against you. In addition, when you go into someone's Plarium account, sometimes they'll have a credit card linked, sometimes they'll have their PayPal account linked, they'll have their Google account linked, Facebook. There's a multitude of information that people can obtain through that method. And it was actually surprising to me how many content creators didn't really realize that. how easy it would be for someone to get someone's information and just what exactly they could do with just a simple email address and a password. So it's pretty surprising, but that's why that's a huge security risk that Plarium kind of looks the other way on and has since this game came out. So I found it hilarious that they would say security, data security, etc. is a reason for blocking these third-party mercy counter apps. And again, especially since there are other third-party apps that people use with this game that they don't care about. They don't say anything about those. So I wanted that was kind of my response on that. And the reason I think they're doing this is going back to them being owned by a casino company. Having that mercy counter in a way for an educated consumer is almost like counting cards when you go into a casino. Now, counting cards is not illegal, but the casino will throw you out if they find out you're doing it. Because they don't want you having any kind of advantage over the house. And that's kind of how it is with Plarium. You're playing against the house pretty much every time you go on this game. Whether you're pulling shards, whether you're going for gear drops in the dungeons, you're playing against the house, and the house always wins, usually. You might pull yourself a legendary once in a while, but it's going to usually come after a lot of pain and suffering and a lot of money wasted on shard pulls. So I think the reason behind this is, and this is pure speculation, I don't have any data to back this up, so just we'll throw that caveat out there, but I think what it is this could affect their revenue in a negative fashion. If you're an educated consumer and you're careful with your spending in-game, a lot of people will just blindly buy shard packs, thinking, oh man, I'm probably close to my mercy, maybe I'll get something here. It's been a while since I pulled something good. Void shards are especially bad about this. Like, you may not realize after a couple of months, you might be like, man, I haven't pulled a void legendary, but you may not realize you haven't actually pulled that many void shards, but yet you still start buying the packs because you think in your mind, I've pulled a bunch of these shards, I should be getting something soon, and you still don't get anything. Now, if you have access to that counter showing you where you are in the pity system, you can actually make an educated choice like, oh, hey, I'm 5 shards away from possibly getting a legendary champion. Yeah, I'll go ahead and buy this, $50 void offer this weekend and pull that legendary, and it was worth it. But then if you see, hey, oh man, I'm like 80 shards away, yeah, I'm not going to buy this really bad $100 deal for void shards this weekend. So I think they wanted to eliminate that second option. They don't want people to kind of get the idea that, oh, I'm actually very far away from the mercy, so I don't really want to pull any shards. Because a lot of stuff in this game revolves around the dopamine rush that you get from pulling those shards, pulling those really awesome legendary champions. And again, this is one of the reasons I think they don't frown upon the fact that we have content creators doing these shard pulls for viewers. And that brings me back to the whole thing about the security issue. That is another way that they influence people to sort of spend money on the game. You watch, it happens to me all the time. I'll be watching a stream, and a streamer gets on a hot streak and they pull 4 or 5 legendaries for somebody in like 20 shards, and you're like, oh man, maybe I can get that luck. Let me go on and buy a couple packs and let me try. Thankfully, I'm very disciplined in my spending, so I'm able to kind of get past that initial idea, but I know a lot of people fall for it, and that's exactly what they're hoping happens. And it's actually one of the reasons that I would not do shard pulls. I do them, once in a while. If we're doing a free-to-play episode and we have some shards to pull, we might pull them for fun, but I'm not going to promote that sort of, it's gambling in a way, but I don't want to have to influence people that, hey, yeah, you should go out and buy a bunch of shards to get your dopamine rush, because I don't like, to each their own. If you do that, I don't have any problem with, content creators that do it. I get it. It makes money. It gets them views. That's what they have to do. That's one of the reasons I do YouTube as a hobby. I don't want to have to worry about, do I need this video to get, 20,000 views to make some money on it? And I think at the end of the day, you see a lot of, you even see some content creators that'll be like, oh, well, don't go buy a bunch of shards, don't do this. Then they proceed to pull like 400 shards and kind of sort of lose that message completely. But that's one of the reasons I don't do shard pull videos on this account. I personally don't think it's responsible, and I just don't like being that influence that tells people, hey, go buy shard packs and go try to pull that legendary. That's just kind of not my style. But again, if that's something you do, I have no problem with it. You got to make money, you got to do your thing. That sort of brings me to sort of my final thing on with this community, with the content creators in a little bit of a way. I'm starting to see a lot of parallels between this content creation community and what existed with Bungie and Destiny, and unfortunately with a lot of content creators having to toe the company line when it comes to this stuff. And again, it's one of the reasons I don't do YouTube as a living. I like my job that I have a pretty decent income, and I don't want to be beholden to anyone and feel like I have to talk about the game the way they want me to. And I feel like there's a lot of content creators out there who, no matter what, are going to be like, oh, we have to stay positive. We have to be rainbows and puppy dogs. Everything in the game is amazing. We can't be critical. We can't give any critical feedback. Been seeing a lot of stuff today where, oh, it doesn't matter what we think because Plarium has their own business plan and they're going to follow that business plan, and they don't care about our opinions. They don't care about our feedback. We just need to play the game, enjoy the game, and make content for the game, which... cool. If that's your attitude, I totally get it. I understand people are making a living off this game, and that's what they have to do. That's, you know, that's the line you want to toe. That's fine. But I kind of subscribe to the little quote where at the end of the day, you know, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. And a lot of these developers, if they can, they'll pull the wool right over your eyes and they will milk you for every cent you have if you're not careful. But I'm starting to see a lot of parallels with Plarium and Bungie, where it's just feedback is never taken into account. They continue to do things that are just baffling, that cause community uproar. They do not listen to feedback. And I got to tell you, that's probably the biggest thing for me that kind of sucks. Is the main reason I wanted to join this content creator community and raid was to be able to have the access to the community managers, to the developer, to be able to give them feedback to help them improve this game. Because at the end of the day, I really do enjoy this game. And I think even if you enjoy a game, you can still criticize it. You can still be very critical of a game because you love the game and you want to see it get better. You don't want to see it die. And right now, I kind of feel like Raid is getting very close to the edge of that tipping point where they're going to start hemorrhaging players in a couple of months if they don't start to work on quality of life. And, you know, a lot of content creators provide that feedback, but it's not listened to. It's not taken into consideration. And I don't think we should just shut up and not say how we feel about the game. I think we should definitely continue to get our thoughts out there, give our opinion on what's going on. You know, at the end of the day, if the developer doesn't want to listen, that's on them, and that's totally cool. But, you know, I'm going to continue to be a voice, I guess, for the little guys. Like I always say, you know, I always try to look out for the free-to-play, for the low spend. That's how I've always been on my YouTube account, no matter what game I'm covering. That's why I make the content that I do, aimed more for the casual, lower spend, free-to-play players. And I don't necessarily go for more of the in-game, like, whale-type stuff, because there's a ton of places you can get that content already if you want to. But overall, it's just been a very interesting day. A couple of days for Raid, and just kind of a little bummed out to see the direction that some of the stuff is going on with the content creation program and the community in general. It's not what I signed up for. I wanted to sign up to help make this game better, and unfortunately it seems like it's just like pretty much every other game where it boils down to how much can we support the developer. The developer wants you to promote their game, obviously, and wants you to make it seem like everything's great and perfect. But again, at the end of the day, I do this for a hobby, specifically so that I can have my own opinion and I don't have to worry about whether or not, you know, I'm going to get my free stuff taken away that I get in the game, which, you know, at my tier of content creation, it's not anything that special anyways. It's not something to really worry about. But I wanted to kind of share my thoughts about this. Again, I'm not like out here trying to say you have to do things a certain way as a content creator. I get it. You know, people are out here trying to make a living. They're trying to make money. But that's also a reason you should be concerned, because there's a lot of people where if this game dies, if it starts to decline, it's going to be difficult to make a jump to another game and have the same success. It's very hard to restart your YouTube channel or go into a separate game when people are so used to, you know, seeing Raid on your account. Just in general, that's what you play, that's what they're used to. It's going to be tough usually to bring them over to a different game at the start. So you want the game to do well, and you should give good feedback. You know, whether or not the developer is going to listen to it, you should at least try your best to improve the game. That's my overall attitude on this. I don't think we should just be quiet and, you know, play the game and say, oh, everything's great, and let the company do what they're going to do. So that's kind of my thoughts on this, guys. Let me know what you think down below, as always. I'd be interested to hear everybody's thoughts on them removing this mercy system counter, your thoughts on the AMA overall. I didn't go over any of that stuff because it's been covered on a bunch of videos already. You can easily find that for some of the larger creators. I just wanted to get my thoughts out regarding why they took it out of the game, and just give my thoughts in general on the content creation process that's going on right now. So as always, leave your comments down below. I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. As always, I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again next time.